So there's a lot of confusion about fly lines in terms of what is the right fly line for you. Fly line's one of those things where when you come into the shop and you buy a rod and reel outfit, usually whoever's here or any fly shop you go to, we spend a lot of time talking to you about the rod and a lot of time talking about the reel, and then when we get to the line we just say, okay, we'll throw something on there for you. But really, having the right fly line is extremely important. What I've run into a lot of times over the years is that people have rods that they don't like, and they might not like them because they have the wrong fly line on there. Essentially, what you can do with a fly line is by putting a heavier line on a rod, you can slow down the action of the rod. So you can make a fast action rod slower or softer by putting a heavier line on it. So if you have a 5-weight rod and you put a 6-weight line on it, you make that rod slower. You put more flex into that rod because to cast it you have that heavier line that you're bending the rod grader. On the other side of things, if you have a rod that you feel like is loading too much or too soft, too slow, you can quicken it up and crispen it up by putting a lighter line on it. Most rods these days are on the fast action side of the world, and so a lot of fly line manufacturers have created lines that are intentionally heavy to compensate for that. So, Scientific Anglers has got an MPX, which is a half size heavy, and I actually finally think they're saying that right on the box now to make it a little more sense. So if you've got a faster action rod that you want to get a little more load and a little more pop out of, you might go with a line like the MPX. And then you have lines that would be more of a correct weight. You can kind of let whoever's at the shop tell you what they think would be best for you, or you can kind of read and make a guess. But ultimately, a lot of this comes down to your own personal preference on how you want your rod to feel. Do you want it to be fast and stiff? Do you want it to be slow and soft? One thing that I really like to play around with fly lines on rods, and use different fly lines for different situations. And so I have some rods that I might use 2 or 3 different floating fly lines on. So not just buy one and be over with, but you actually use several different lines. And for instance, if I'm going to be fishing, a day down in Argentina where we're throwing great big dry flies, or Montana, or even in New Mexico in the spring where you're doing a big dry dropper, making longer cast, it's going to be a windy day, go with that heavier line. Take that 5-weight, put a 6-weight line on it. You'll probably find that that's easier to cast than busting out your 6-weight with a 6-weight line on it. If you've got days where you know that you're going to be doing some more delicate presentations, maybe you're going to the San Juan and you're throwing little tiny dries, then go with a lighter line, something more standard, like if you have a 5-weight rod using a 5-weight line. And then just a couple other things to note here. Scientific Anglers came out with this amplitude line last year, and it's quickly become a staff favorite. It's got a super slick coating on it. They make it in both a textured line and a smooth now, and that's new this year. So if you don't like that texture and you don't like the sound of that line zipping through your guides, the smooth would probably be the way to go. And of course, again, you can't go wrong with that MPX half-weight heavy. Loads up most of those fast auction rods a little bit better. But again, try a few different floating lines and just see what works better for your casting stroke.